do the trick. So, Tony, before we turn our attention toward Penn State, and folks, we do have a special guest coming on from 247 Sports a little bit later to rep the Penn State side. I thought that was a complete game. You were not going to shut another team down completely, but Ohio State did it just about as well as possible. They gave up a couple plays on the first drive, a missed field goal. Oh, yeah, and I understand Purdue had students out there practicing and doing field goal attempts at halftime. They probably should have taken notice. And then the first half ended the same way. But other than that, the Ohio State defense was pretty airtight, and the offense found a running game.
Yeah, Ohio State defense gave up only 3 drives of 40 yards or more, and a couple of those ended up in missed field goals, if not all 3 of them. And anytime you hold a team to 7 points on the road, that's going to be a very good defensive performance overall. Offensively, you mentioned the running game. Losing Chip Trayanum, and who knows when he'll be back. I mean, he was on the sideline for the entirety after that game, so it didn't seem like it was too bad, but you saw the immediate aftermath of his hit, and you're not going to be playing again in that game when you try to run off the field and fall to the ground. But Dallin Hayden, I went back and, that was the most efficient game for an Ohio State running back this year in terms of success rate of running the ball, of guys who've had more than 10 carries or more in a game. That was the best outing for the Buckeyes this year. And it's too bad that it takes so many injuries to get Dallin Hayden in the game, and they're trying to redshirt him. They want to redshirt him. They now have 2 more games that he can play. But at some point, you have to look at it and see if he is the most effective guy, then what are you holding him back for? Like, if he's the most effective guy, then he needs to play. But clearly, they don't believe he is, and this was just a 1-game sample. But like I said, he had the highest efficiency rating, a success rate for an Ohio State running back this year in his one game. And I don't know if we'll get to find out if that's just a 1-game measure, because they expect TreVeyon Henderson to be back. They expect Mayan Williams to be back, perhaps. Like, we don't know exactly. They've never told us what's wrong with either one of those guys. And Chip, like I said, Chip was on the sideline. So if they get everybody back, does that mean Dallin Hayden goes right back to the sideline? I guess.
I would hesitate real quick, Steve. I would hesitate saying this as some kind of official statement that should be on a scouting report. But then again, when I've seen scouting reports, there are statements like this. Dallin Hayden just looks better running the ball. He just looks like he has a feel. He has instincts. He has a lot of skill set that goes in a number of directions that could be useful to trying to win a championship. All right, Steve.
Well, I agree with a lot of what Tony said. As some of you, I may have said on this show last week, I was not at the game. First game I've missed in 22 years because my niece was getting married in Washington, D.C. And so we were all out there. We're staying at a Marriott in Bethesda, Maryland. And we asked them very kindly, could we get a TV with Peacock on it? And they told us, no, you may not. And, it was just a big rigmarole trying to get it worked out. I'm sure at the bar, they probably had a streaming TV, but, we had probably 5-10 of us that wanted to watch the game, obviously. So what we did was we found a Buckeye watch bar there in the neighborhood. Quite frankly, it was a World of Beer in Bethesda, Maryland, and they worked really hard, got the Peacock game on for us. I watched the first half there, and then I came back and streamed it onto my TV in my room in the second half as I was getting ready for the wedding. So I watched the game, and we can get into the Peacock broadcast later, but that was kind of the planes, trains, and automobiles version of trying to watch a game on streaming in 2023. We're not quite there yet with the technology or the clearance, nationwide of every television in the country, can just hit a button and get this game. We're not quite there just yet, but I was very impressed. We're watching the first drive, and Purdue's marching it right down the field in 11 and 12-yard chunks. And you're like, oh, Knowles, the defense, here they go. And then they get down, close to the red zone, and slammed the car door on Purdue's head. And then the defense went 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Great pressure on the quarterback. A batted pass, a Tuimoloau sack in there as well. And you could just see Purdue with each play getting a little bit more demoralized as it happened. Their defense had to be like, what the heck, guys? You can't hold the ball for even 2 minutes, and give us a chance to get a break. And Ohio State scored touchdowns on 3 of their first 4 possessions and fumbled at the 1-yard line on the other one. The Devin Brown wrinkle was outstanding, in my opinion, just kind of a new thing to throw in there. Now Penn State and everybody else they have to play the rest of the season has to spend a half hour each day in practice just working against the Wildcat quarterback in the red zone. And after the second series, I said to my buddy, this looks like it might work down there. And I said, now they need him to throw it out of that formation just to have that on tape as well. So to me, I thought this was all systems go. I mean, it was a rainy day, so it got a little bit wonky in the second half. Tony, you were there. You know how bad that was. I really couldn't tell on television. But to me, I thought this was about an 8 or a 9 out of a scale of 1 to 10 of what you would hope for. As bad as the Maryland game was with all the, self-inflicted errors and mistakes, unforced errors is what they call them in tennis, where you just mishit the ball and knock it out of bounds or whatever. Ohio State had, dozens of those against Maryland. There were very few of those, it seemed. And even when they did, when Josh Simmons grabbed the guy and, flung him or tackled him for a holding penalty that eventually forced the first punt of the game, Ryan Day was right there with Josh Simmons right here telling him exactly what he thought of that. So to me, they were in Penn State mode, I think, finally, for the first time this season, and that was something that we needed to see.
Yeah, good job by Quinn Temple, Ohio State's get-back coach, to keep Ryan Day from getting a penalty this week. So
get back.
That's always a plus. I like the creativity of the offense. They ran some counters that were hitting big for Dallin Hayden. We haven't seen too many of those this season in terms of what they were running with the guard and the tackle pulling. So that was good. I think when we talked to Justin Fry earlier last week, he said they're going to have to change some scheme things because there's obviously some things that the offensive line doesn't do well. So kind of just cut that out, and then you go back to you find what they do well and you do more of that. I do wonder, sitting there with a couple of guys in the press box, when we saw Devin Brown come out, it was like, why do this now? Actually, I had Pat Murphy on one side, and I think Kevin Noon on the other, and Patrick's like, why do you bring out Devin Brown in this game now? Why do you show this to Penn State? And then
because it was Purdue.
Because my answer was they're not going to do it against Penn State, so you just make Penn State deal with it and work on it. But if it's effective, then yeah, you're going to use it. Now the throwing aspect of it, that was a scary throw to G. Scott that could have been, or whoever it was out there, it could have been a pick six in the flat. So they need to get that squared away. And not that Kyle McCord was perfect with his throws, because he wasn't. But there's a lot to lack in terms of the paring things down and what works and sticking with them. I'll also say defensively, it's starting to look more and more like Cody Simon's taking that job from Steel Chambers. Steel Chambers may still be the starter. Cody Simon played more at that will linebacker, or as much, and then played some later in the game, maybe at middle. But I like that addition of Cody Simon in there, because the linebacker's been a little bit up and down, and he missed some tackles as well, but he also made some plays. And I think you're getting some plays made from him that is going to keep him back. He's going to keep him in the game. They're going to keep putting him in there. And at some point, I wonder if they're even going to take him out.